Well, hello. Thank you for joining me here today. I this is a whole new learning curve for me, and I can only trust that the people I have touched base with are able to watch. My gosh, I thought I had it all set up, but there we go. This is going through 5 minutes before it on a different level. So anyway, let's go back to our beginning of our slides, shall we? That would be a great idea, Margarita. Whoa, what a journey it's been. It's been a journey to get here today. The hero's journey. How life's biggest challenges can become a turning point for us. And I just need to go this way. That's better. And I need a drink of water. So, and starting here at 8:30 this morning, one should be prepared. But my gosh, the challenges to get through to be able to do this. However, we're here. So, the storyline of the hero's journey is, happy families, something tragic happens, the challenges, the struggles, the transformation, and then returning as a new, stronger person. And two examples that come to mind of that are Toy Story and Finding Nemo. They were just beautiful examples of when I was watching them how long ago. Totally reminded me of life, how life deals things to us. So have there been times when you have thought, this is just not the life I planned? Perhaps it was divorce, someone you loved, redundancy, health diagnosis, becoming an empty nester. And I know that feeling. There have been many times, there have been times in my own life when everything I'd planned disappeared. Probably not into thin air, it shattered into a million pieces. Divorce, learning to manage a farm on my own, cancer, starting over again in my 60s. None of those were chapters that I had envisaged or chosen. But looking back now, I realised that every one of those moments was inviting me, was a stepping stone into becoming the person I am growing into. I am now, and I am and continue growing into. And then the hero's journey, it covers it all, doesn't it? So let's get on to the next slide. That one, yes. Life doesn't go to plan, does it? We begin in our safe environment. It's comfortable, it's familiar, it's predictable. And that's exactly where I was. Safe, comfortable, predictable, and possibly looking back now, stagnant. Until it changes. And I was at the kitchen washing up after having made some mulberry jam with the mulberries freshly picked off my tree. And this little voice said, you need to walk down to his shed. So I'm washing up and I'm walking down and I'm thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing here. So in I go and just automatically opened up the emails, and my life just shattered. 40 years of marriage just shattered in tiny fragments to the ground. It was incredible. It was an incredible journey. So the hero's journey. In the actual diagram that is representative of the hero's journey, it's shown as the adventure. Well, it's hardly an adventure, is it? It's the crisis. For me, it was the crisis. And it was then, and that's in the known, right? It's happening there and then. And then you move through strategies of how to deal with that crisis. It's all unknown territory. And in fact, I think it's got muddled around here. because before the guides comes the realization that in order actually for me to move out of the victim mode into the victor, or to rise like the phoenix, as I grasped hold of, that was my image. Rise like the phoenix from Harry Potter, big, bold, powerful, beautiful. And then guides come in, guides in various forms. And then we have transformation. The person we are changes, and we grow into this new person, stronger. And in amongst that, gosh, must be something happening with the internet. It keeps bouncing backwards and forwards, for me anyway. We have this transformation, and then alongside that comes peace. And then we're back into becoming known. We've found a purpose. We're able to move forward. We have the strength, the courage, the conviction to do so. Whoops, said Daisy. We don't want that. We want this one. Dear oh dear. So let's talk about the struggle. It certainly wasn't part of my plan. I was, thought I was happy where I was. And yes, during that divorce period, I particularly chose this picture because of the darkness. And I often thought about the vision that I had whilst I was going through all of that, was being at the bottom of this really deep, empty well, and looking up and seeing nothing but black, like being in a tunnel, I guess, and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then you finally realize that this is not a good place to be. It's cold, it's dark, there's no comfort, there's no warmth, there's nothing that is familiar, and you decide that you need to go forward, you need to climb up out of this. And you find the strength, you find that inner grit to do so. And I have to say that along my journey, I've come across women who just have stayed stuck because they haven't been able to find that inner grit. And look, for me, this all happened in my early 60s, and it was overwhelming to find that I had to rebuild my life all over again. It was dauntingly overwhelming. It was terrible. But you find the inner strength, and you do move forward. Our guides. Now, I was really fortunate that I had an acquaintance at the time. She was my horse mentor. She still is, actually, but she doesn't do the mentoring as much these days. She was my horse mentor, and we were talking, and she gave me a copy of the Magic by Rhonda Byrne. And that actually became my Bible at that point in time. So, books, podcasts, free videos, free live streams, etc., etc. And then guides, finding peace is my farm and my animals. My gosh, they are the source of my inner peace. They fill up my soul, they fill up my heart. And when I was diagnosed with cancer and told I'd have to move to town because I live by myself here, I'm a single woman on a farm, and the doctor said, well, you can't have chemotherapy and be out where you are, Margarita, you have to move to town. And it just popped out and said, that will kill me faster than the cancer will. So that's how important my animals and the natural nature here is to me. The freshness, the singing of the birds, just blending in with the nature here. That's how important that is to me. And through that, I guess, the candle here represents spirits, source, the universe, God, whatever it is that you want to relate to. There is a third power there. And that might be church, that might be God through church. It's whatever sits well with you. And then look, in amongst that was my inner circle of close friends who were there pretty much 24/7, not necessarily physically here out on the farm, but within a phone call away, and who would drop everything at both of those points in time, the divorce and the cancer, and would be at my side. That absolutely invaluable when you don't have family. It's so invaluable to have that close group of friends. And then as I progressed and I found my purpose, the picture of me there instructing, finding my purpose, that there was more to it than just going through the divorce and the cancer. There was a bigger purpose to it, and that purpose was sharing. And so you develop a community of people I help, and the community of people that support me. And recently through Global Sisters, absolutely phenomenal free resources there. And our transformation. It's like the caterpillar, you're going through life, chomping on the leaves, feeding up, building the cocoon, and then you're in there for quite some time, changing. That's the metamorphosis. That's the transformation in there, changing. And I imagine it's pretty darn tough going from a caterpillar to a butterfly, and you're coming out, and your wings are still wet. So you're almost there, so to speak. You're almost there, but there is still a little bit of work to do. The sun needs to dry your wings. You need to stretch them out before you can take off beautifully like this gorgeous, gorgeous butterfly. And it has been a transformation, hasn't it? To go through all of those stages. So the transformation, you're not becoming somebody different. You are just becoming more of who you really are. More of what the true essence, and this silly old computer, more of the true essence of what's inside here is being developed and grown and blossoming forth. And what I found was through the divorce, through this cancer, there were times, I've just lost my train of thought. What have I thought? Totally lost my brain, totally lost my thought here. The transformation. Sorry guys, we're just going to have to start again. Absolutely lost it. All right, so let's go back here. Cancer compounded the learnings from my divorce. And I realized that, and I would often think, right, I wish I had these skills during the divorce. I would have handled it so much better instead of the way that I was probably felt I got dragged through it. But then I realized it was the divorce that was the platform where I learnt the skills, because I did free courses, I paid for courses, I did everything and anything I could do and find to get my mind set over this big hurdle. And it was that set me up for the cancer when I was diagnosed with the cancer. And of course I had the pity party. Why me? Oh my gosh, haven't I proved my mettle with what happened throughout the divorce? Well, obviously not. I've got another mountain to climb. And then I realized that I actually had the skills to navigate this. And that was a light bulb moment, because really it's mindset. It's a whole realm of mindset of how you go through it. So you could focus on, why me? I've had all of this crap dealt out to me and now there's some more crap. Why me? The victim mode. or you can flip it. And it was during, that period where I was introduced to Abraham Hicks, and, talking about your guides. It's an interesting story because I'd closed down my B&B, obviously, so much other stuff happening. And I got this mobile phone call, and usually I don't answer unknown numbers, but something I did this time, and it was this woman removalist from Sydney who was coming up to PLC with some things. And I said, oh, no. And anyway, I agreed and just explained it wouldn't be up to scratch. But she said, no, that's fine. I just want to be out in the country. Da, da, da. Anyway, this beautiful, beautiful woman, she just came in, stayed and left. And that was what she had to do. She had to introduce me to Abraham Hicks. And it was through Abraham Hicks's learning. And I have to confess that right back at the beginning, when I first discovered Abraham Hicks, I would listen to that. That would go on my phone from the moment I opened my eyes to the moment my eyes were closed at night, just to fill it constantly with positives. And it wasn't just positives, it was explanations on how to move forward. And over time, and it took a couple of years, I dropped back, and now I can go through a day without listening to it. But every second day I do need to listen to it. So it was really interesting that information came in order for me to be able to learn how to flip it. So yes, I've got cancer. It's crap. And I am healing. I'm getting better and better each day. And on this program, she talked about how even people with chronic illness, chronic arthritic pain, can focus on something positive, right? It might be a nice sunshiny day. They might live in a nice environment. They might have a good carer, a good partner, a supporting carer partner, whatever. There is something in life to be thankful for. And when we think about that, you have a choice. You have a choice of thinking about the horrible things. And I'd like you to do this exercise. Once you go down that path of thinking about horrible things, notice how you're feeling. And then choose to think about something far more pleasant. Like here, you see the back of this room, but I'm actually facing I have a whole wall of window here. And I look out onto my paddocks, and it's filling my soul as I'm speaking. And I'm, that sort of thing I can focus on and feel renewed, my soul filled up, all those sorts of things. And it just feels so much nicer, so much better to be focusing on something pleasant as opposed to something unpleasant. Very interesting stuff. The transformation, it's an incredible thing. So working on that principle, here's a quote, life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. If we're willing to look at the lesson. Now, lots of people choose to think that life happens to us. Well, that's the negative way. And yes, sometimes life does happen to us. But we can flip it and acknowledge that life happens for us. So what is there that I can learn from this situation? What is there that is teaching me something? Sometimes it's just when things go wrong and you can say, well, where's the responsibility here? What did I do to create this? Just looking at it from a different perspective. Life happens for us. Okay, oh my gosh, I can see where I did X, Y, and Z that caused that. Margarita, don't do that in future. Be aware of that. Pull back. Don't say things like that. And it's just a constant journey of learning, evolving, growing. So here's my hero's journey. I was a teacher. I got married, had kids, and thought life had its ups and downs, but on the whole, I was happy. Then divorce and cancer. The farm enabled me to progress my healing, and through that little part of the journey, I discovered that coaching and speaking and developing the Thrive and Shine community on Instagram and YouTube, helping women to flourish, because what I'd gone through, I could then support, encourage women to recognize to believe in themselves again, to find the strength, the intuition, the inner strength to believe in themselves, to move forward. And, sometimes it is really hard. That's the bottom line. But it is doable. So, which stage are you in today? Not yet started, life not going to plan, lost and struggling, growing and learning, healing, ready to give back and live a life on purpose. Just ponder. And sometimes, you can feel that you're going through those on a cycle. So let's just take time to reflect, time to pause. What has your biggest challenge been? Put me, for those on the replay, put me on pause and just, what has your biggest challenge been? Write it down. And writing it down helps to bring it to life, the words, I think with all the work that I've done this morning, it's just all, words are not coming out as easily as they should today. But it helps to validate what it is you're trying to work through, what it is you're thinking about. I know my coaching mentor just says, always write it out. The old-fashioned children writing out lines at school actually had its value. Because that's what we're told to do. Write it out over and over and over again. So what has been your biggest challenge? What did it teach you? I know for me, it taught me that I am stronger than I thought I was. That I have what I need already inside me. That was a tricky one to learn. Sometimes you just have to dig deep enough to find that strength and the courage and the conviction to move forward. And the next question is, I'm beginning to believe. What are you beginning to believe? To believe in yourself? For me, it was, to believe in myself, to hang on to the belief that through the third power, everything always works out for me. And, even now when stuff happens and it's not how I thought, expected it to be, I take a deep breath and just say, everything works out for my advantage. Everything works out for the better for me. There's a greater purpose here. So what are you beginning to believe? And lastly, my next courageous step is, what is your next courageous step? And it's quite interesting, isn't it? It might be reaching out for some help. It might be starting that home-based business. It might be looking at options to stand on your own 2 feet. It might be putting into action a decision that you've made, because it's very easy to make a decision, but the next hard part is actually carrying out that decision. And that was brought home to me during the recent massive drought that we all went through up here in the New England area. when I had to sell cattle and I had to make some pretty, well, I had to make two really hard decisions. Yep. And then not only did I make the decision, but then I had to carry out the action to put those into place. So there we go. Thank you. Thank you for joining me here today. I really do appreciate you. And hopefully the next time I will be able to see some chats on the side and see people watching. However, that was not to be the case for today, but I am pleased that it got out there. Please remember, your story isn't over. You haven't missed your purpose. You're not behind. You are exactly where you need to be at this particular point in time. And that was another little message that I learnt and had to grasp hold of, because sometimes I just felt, this is not where I want to be. But learning that I am exactly where I need to be at this point in time just takes the pressure off of feeling that you're in the wrong place. And it allows you to think more clearly about moving forward. So in that whole process, you are returning to base camp stronger. Absolutely much stronger than when you left. So if today's session has encouraged you, uplifted you, I'd love to continue the journey with you. So that might be through following me on the various YouTube channels and Instagram. It might be staying connected through the coaching, whatever is comfortable with you. Because remember, I started off doing lots of freebies before I reached out to a paid mentor, paid coach. So thank you again for being here. God bless. With heart, Margareta.